jumped out.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Some things to keep in mind. Okay, one of the aspects that talking with all the classes. Okay, when we had that assembly, if you want to call it that, this morning, administration was going through the easiest way to get through this year and next year is when you go to your classes, be on time. Some of you are coming from various parts of the building. I get that. Okay? So be timely, and you just be in a timely fashion. Be on time and probably work hard while you're in there. Any coach can say that too. And as long as you do those two aspects and you come in and do what you're told, how hard would that be to get through high school? Moderately difficult, really easy, or extremely difficult to get in? Yes, you can give an answer because the microphone is on, but I want to ask you, what do you think? And maybe you don't know, don't care. What do you think? Don't care. Okay, fair enough. All right. So one of the things we want to be consistent. How we did that with other classes. We've got our little red tote back there. That won't hold all the cell phones, but it'll probably hold the majority of them until we get something fixed to hang on that door. That's where they'll be going. Okay? And one of the things that you probably heard before, we won't make things an issue unless what? Unless they become one. Pretty simple, right? So, for some people who may end up taking this class again, is there anyone responsible for that? Or is it maybe the person that you might see in the mirror? Is it that person's responsibility? I would think a lot of you nodding your heads yes. Okay? So, as you know, that assignment board over there, we try to do a pretty good job of trying to keep that up to date. I don't believe the link is finished for linking it to the website, because we know it's nothing really, I don't want to say that elaborate. You click on picture, it just takes you to plan book. You click on the week, and it's something very similar to that would pop up. Okay, we're trying to get that done as soon as possible. But you always have this to come in and see what we're doing for the week. Come in every Monday or the first day of the week. So if you're gone for various reasons, whether it's illness or you're gone for school activity, some of these classes, as you can see, we go from 3 to 18 to just 2 and then to 26. And I believe there's 14 and then there's 18 in here. We're not always going to catch everything or everyone that falls through the cracks that may have missed a day prior to this. So if you miss something, responsibility, come talk to myself and say, okay, I was gone. We had all-state chorus. I just made that up. Okay? So please take the initiative. Come in and grab the material that you may have missed. Because one of the things that we've talked about before, whether it's biology, especially anatomy and physiology, and zoology, it's going to be vocabulary that's going to be really, really important. I think you would agree with that. One of the examples we could possibly give is Mr. Hammer says, we want you to go to the lumberyard, I want you to get some white paint. Why would that be a vague term? We're not talking about off or egg white or off white, but if you just wanted white paint, is there only one type of white paint, or is there 2, or is there 3? I can think of 3, right? If you want it really, really shiny, you'd call that what? Gloss. Or varnish as well, gloss. If you want it somewhere in between flat and shiny, semi-gloss. If you want it flat, you just get satin. That sound pretty accurate? So that vocabulary is always going to be something that is your responsibility. Go on the back of the book. Find out what that definition is so you can communicate that. I think that's pretty normal to what we've been doing the last couple of years. If you have any problems, especially when we get into protein synthesis, that's down the road. Okay, that's probably one of the more important aspects of this semester, maybe even the year, because then it leads into human genetics. Okay? And should we get to that point in the semester, we really don't want to just, I'm lost. I need extra credit. Do you get extra credit? No. All that extra credit that is afforded to you is placed where? On bonus questions, where though? On your exams, where it counts the most. So it's your responsibility to take that initiative to, okay, I'm going to do these bonus questions because I know it's going to help me in the long run. That's your responsibility. Should you choose to do that? Should you fall behind? Should you need extra help? We're available all day long. Okay, I think you would agree with that. So let's try not to find ourselves in an unpleasant situation once November and December make it to that point of time in the year. All right, so quickly recap, be in a timely fashion, work hard while you're in here. Okay, if you missed something, come and talk to myself so you can get caught up to what you may have missed. Do what you're instructed to do, and be willing to bet the school year would go just smooth as could be. Should you choose not to do that, well then that's your decision. But then don't ruin it for other people. Would that be a fair statement to make? And you've heard this example before. You know, maybe it's late in the playoffs in the football season, and you're maybe about ready to, you're knocking on the door to punch it in the end zone, and I get caught holding because you just didn't want to put that extra effort in. That might not be a good example, but it's just one of those things to where everyone else is doing their job, and you may unfortunately choose, I'm just going to be lazy. This is what I'm going to do. And I think that would be fairly selfish. Again, that might not be a good example, but some of you may be in here because you actually want to learn some of this stuff because you know, or not stuff, but content, because you know in the future you're going to need it. All right. So with that being said, we got 4, 7, 9, 14, 18. We're all here. Okay. So the next thing, don't go by that clock. I got a battery for it. I just got to set it. Slowly losing time. Next thing we want you to do, middle shelf. So you're moving up in the world. You're no longer on the bottom. That's where physical science is. So if you take physical science, your book is on the bottom. Now we're moving up. Next thing, go ahead and go back there and pick a biology book, please. Okay, and write your name and then the number that appears on this part of the book, on the spine or spine. Doesn't have. If there's a one on the outside, look on the inside. Okay, so that's what we want you to go by. And okay, so when you write your name and a number, that's the book that you want to have back there this spring. Some of you grab a book when you need one. Okay? Maybe you want to take yours to your library. That's entirely up to yourself. Okay? Let's not go through the process of what happened last spring. I think people just wrote the wrong numbers down. Makes it pretty difficult to get these checked back in. So, once you get that done, please sign that note card with your name and number on it so we can get that checked back in the spring.
After we're done doing everything.
Yeah, you can go to back. It's fine. Okay, I'm just handing these out, so, staple them. Don't staple, if you don't want to staple, you just pass the stapler along. One of the things, we just want to talk about some of the things that we see on here. One of the things to keep in mind is biology and physical science are two unrelated, I don't want to say sciences. Okay? There's really no math involved with this. There's a lot of memorizing, if you want to look at it that way, or a lot of physiology involved. But as you can see, the last two pages are full of vocabulary terms. The most important aspect of communicating this information. I had formally signed this one. How about September 3rd? How's that? Oh, I don't think so. I don't know. It wouldn't be September 3rd because that's after a long weekend. I don't think we would want that. Probably not. Okay. So, even if, or I should say, as you look at the heading on here, okay, how many times do you suppose you've gone over the concept of a cell? I would think 5 times, maybe. You were possibly introduced into that in 3rd grade, maybe. And maybe it's hard to remember that far back because you've gone over it so many times. But that's just a guess, perhaps. And as you're looking at this, you might, oh my gosh, this is so boring. Maybe you were thinking about that as you're reading some of this. And I would find it hard to disagree with that, but we do have to start something, okay? So one of the aspects, we just don't apply some of these higher level thinking concepts to what we call cells. But one of the ways to look at this and perhaps make sense of it, okay? Why would paramedics, let's say, carry this chemical compound called Narcan with them? Has anyone ever heard of Narcan? And that's what you would be watching the news just to see, oh my gosh, now I remember what Narcan is. But, so, do you mind sharing what you believe? You're probably right. Do you mind sharing what Narcan is?
Isn't it like to help people that overdose?
That's right. Because what happens is as emergency responders may approach a person who has overdosed on different types of drugs, that of which is in their system is going to continue to have an effect on their body until something stops that. This compound called Narcan, then, it blocks what we call receptor sites. It blocks that illegal substance that might be inside of them. When it blocks those receptor sites, it no longer has that paralyzing effect on their heart, their lungs, and that allows them to, you could say, come back from possibly dying from that overdose that you had just alluded to. So when you look at that type of thinking, then these types of concepts may become more interesting. At least we would hope. But at this level, we're talking about the majority of all cells have mainly 3 characteristics in common. For those of you who go on and take higher order sciences, you may a little bit more, but we know that eukaryotic organisms that we are, or multicellular, they're all going to have a command center inside of them, and that would be called the what? Yeah, the nucleus. And the cell itself has a fluid portion inside of it. What might that be? The cytoplasm. And then there is a type of gatekeeper that surrounds each cell. It's the cell membrane or plasma membrane, whichever way you want to look at it. Okay? Because as materials try to make themselves present moving into and out of the body, some of those move very easily, like blood gas. That's really, really small. That can diffuse into and out of cells really easily. Water moves by what we call osmosis. Okay? So then there are substances that are too big to diffuse into and out of the body cells, and those are probably sugars or complex carbohydrates or even proteins. So there you have something called facilitated diffusion. So if you have someone in front of the band doing the conducting or the choir, or perhaps running the play into you people, that they have that information, that makes them the facilitator. They're going to be the ones that make it happen. So facilitated diffusion then is going to be a process that opens that gate up, because try to think of, you're not going to be able to move 20 head of cattle through the gate all at once if it's only open in a short amount. But you swing the gate wide open, now you can run your cattle through there in multiple cattle. That's kind of like the same concept of what facilitated diffusion would be. It's too large to enter by itself. So it opens the gate, they come through, close the gate. And then finally the last one that is probably not that anyone's more important than the other, but it's called the sodium potassium pump. And that one requires energy where the other three do not. Okay, so that's kind of like a brief introduction onto what it is we'll be discussing in the next couple of weeks, maybe. And we will include parts of Chapter 5, which movement of those materials we just talked about, osmosis, facilitated diffusion, diffusion, and active transport. But for some of you in fall athletics, it may change as a person gets older, especially for me. It's getting harder and harder to stand up because the legs are sore. How about yourself? We're sore. Gentlemen. Shoulders, knees, no, not knees, that's a joint. Okay, calves, they're sore. Anybody else that's involved in football, probably volleyball too. The reason it is so darn warm in there, it's probably pretty dehydrated pretty quick. And when that happens, okay, you're trying to make energy without oxygen. And the reason being is your demands go up. It's not that we can't breathe that fast, it's just that we need to take in more oxygen because the demands have gone up so high because you're running on the court, you're running on the field, you're running a route in cross country. So when them demands go up, you need to take in more oxygen, but there's only so much to go around. There are 3 places that really need to have continuous supply of oxygen. Just take a guess on where you think they might be. Your brain, your heart, lungs. That's a common misconception. The lungs don't contract and breathe on their own. It's a different structure. It's below the lung. Your diaphragm. Those 3 aspects, of course, there's going to be more organs as well, but those 3 definitely have to have their constant supply. Your brain actually takes up about 60% of your metabolic activity, so it takes a lot to run that. If you're already sending that much there, there's only going to be so much oxygen to go to your legs, and when you start running short, you're starting to produce energy
without oxygen. And it can be done, it's just a little more taxing on the body. Okay, so we'll pick up with this again tomorrow. Now, one of the things, there's really no reason to get up out of our chairs and start moving around. Once the bell rings, then you can go. You heard it here first. So with that, again, we'll pick up with this information tomorrow. Any questions? Let me know. All right.